Authorities in Michigan told parents to be on the lookout after discovering candy and snacks containing THC and hallucinogenic mushroom products. Said parents, "Oh, we've been on the lookout for those."
Gee, interestingly enough, Michigan has a bigger Halloween problem, a much bigger Halloween problem. And welcome to Friday on the Chris Plante Show. Chris has the day off. It's Mike Opelka sitting in for my good friend, Chris Plante. Happy to be here, honored to be here, thrilled to be here, especially on a Friday because I get to say Friday-luya, and especially on Halloween. Even though I'm not someone who's going to be putting on a costume today, the news shows that do that, I always kind of shake my head and go, and you want people to take you seriously. And here you are, dressed as Elvis or whatever. I know they're having fun. Good for them. God bless. But we have fun today. We will have a lot of fun today, and I hope you will be a part of the fun. And yes, there are serious topics to address as well. You're welcome to join the conversation at any time. 888-630-9625, 888-630-9625. Just a few things on the list. We will have some fun with Democrats saying the darndest things because they never disappoint. So we'll play some of the darndest things that Democrats have said in the last 21 hours since Chris left the airwaves. And trust me, we could just play Democrats saying dumb things and fill the entire 3 hours of the show. But we want to have some fun with some analysis as well. We're also going to share some perspective on what I think are critical topics facing the country, facing the Republican Party. There are things that our president has presented that should be up for discussion today, and I think it's important to have those discussions. And there's also a topic that was brought up by our former vice president, Kamala Harris, who every day she speaks publicly is another day I actually include the fact that she's not president in my prayers of gratitude. Every single day, I thank God that President Trump is our president and it's not Kamala Harris. But we'll get to Kamala Harris and what she said yesterday. She's on her book tour in Australia. And I'm laughing as I think about the mountain of clips she has provided us just for today's broadcast. I know there were some clips yesterday that Chris shared with you with an Australian interviewer who has an unfortunate name. I think the interviewer from yesterday was named Sarah Ferguson. Wasn't that the Duchess who was married to Andrew? And now her whole life has been destroyed because of all his adventures with Jeffrey Epstein. And now he's lost all his titles and the children have been leaving the country. And what an unfortunate name. If your name was Sarah Ferguson, would you keep it for the notoriety or would you change it? I'm just saying. Kind of a weird sidebar there, a little ADD sidebar. So we'll talk about what Kamala Harris is saying as she is on her book tour. And the book, which I have a confession to make. I actually purchased Kamala Harris's book. And I purchased it, the audio version. And I listened to it, but I listened to it to mock it. And if you were here, I think we played clips of it when I was here when Chris was up for jury duty. But it's fun to take Kamala Harris's book and slow it down a little bit because she sounds like she's hammered. You just have to slow it down about 20%, and she sounds absolutely hammered. But yesterday, some of the things she said, you don't even need to slow it down. She just sounds like she's been to the bar. But we'll get to that. I also want to talk about the update on a story out of Mississippi earlier this week that reminded me of some of the fears we had about the Reston Monkey House years and years and years ago with the possibility of disease spreading. There was the story out of Mississippi where a truck filled with monkeys was being driven across the south towards Florida when the truck crashed. Now, there are different reports. One says the driver fell asleep, the truck rolled over, the monkeys got out, some of them had to be euthanized. The driver reportedly told cops, these are monkeys that are carrying all kinds of diseases and they're aggressive. And I was thinking, what's the deal with the driver? What do we know about this driver? We have had a handful of horrific, deadly crashes in this country with commercial drivers who had no business being behind the wheel of those trucks. And many of them were given licenses by California and Gavin Newsom, and they turned out to be people who can't read or write English. That's kind of a strange thing about driving 60, 70,000 pounds of metal down the highway at over 60 miles an hour, and you're reading the signs or trying to, and they're written in English and you don't read or write or process English, and then you have to make a last-second decision. God knows how many people are out on the roads. And I just wonder, and I've been trying to find out, maybe somebody's got additional information on this, what was going on with the driver of the truckload of monkeys? There are no reports as to the information on the driver, other than there's one story that I found on a local report out of Mississippi that said the driver claims he fell asleep, which, yeah, that's a problem too. So I'm tracking all of the stories about the thousands of commercial driver's licenses that have been given to people who in many cases can't read or write English, can't speak the language, and in some cases, in hundreds of cases around the country, they didn't even give a name to have it on their driver's license. Now imagine you go into the DMV today and you say, I lost my license, I need to renew my driver's license, and you tell them, I'm not giving you a name. Do you think you're going to get a driver's license? Well, I guess if you're in California or New York, maybe. But the no name given thing, that's got to stop. That's got to stop. So we'll talk about that a little bit later. We also need to discuss the word nuclear today, or some people say nuclear. Nuclear testing, the president talking about nuclear testing, and the president also talking about the nuclear option. The nuclear option to end the shutdown, which are now day 31 of the government shutdown, and the call by the president for the Senate to end the filibuster and just nuke the filibuster. I personally am not a fan of ending I think the filibuster is an important piece of the Senate. And I think it's critical for the filibuster to continue, because there will be a time when the GOP does not have the majority, and the last thing you want to do is surrender that ability to have mob rule. You know, if you have mob rule in the Senate, meaning you have 50+1, you can do anything. And I mean anything. And we all know the Democrats are capable of doing anything. So I would love to get your take on the nuclear option. And I'm not talking about nuclear testing. That's a different issue. There's some of us who think the president just he might be having a little bit of fun. The president might be trolling as it relates to the nuclear option. The president might be tweaking the Democrats, as it were, just a little bit, trying to see what's going on. But I do think it's important for us to shake up China and Russia as it relates to their unbridled development of weapons. You know, last week before President Trump started some of his negotiations, Putin was saying, oh, yeah, we got nuclear-powered missiles now. And Xi Jinping has been showing off and talking about how much they've developed their military. Well, Donald Trump walks in and says, we haven't tested anything new since 1992, and I think we should do that. And then both of those guys went, wait, what? What? We're going to spend some money on that? I'd go back to Ronald Reagan and what he did, bankrupting the Soviet Union by engaging them in the space and arms races. I think President Trump, again, playing some 3D chess in diplomacy. But we'll get to all of that. Plus, Democrats not only say the darndest things, Democrats are doing some ridiculous and awful things. Absolutely ridiculous and awful things. I think that's safe to say, fair to say. We have a Democrat in Maryland who's been indicted for being involved in just a crazy blackmail scheme. A Democrat state senator, Delia Attar, indicted on charges involved with a scheme to blackmail individuals she thought would hurt her campaign. Now, never mind just coming up with better ideas. Let's not win this on the battlefield of good ideas and good policies. Let's try and destroy our competition. And this was reported yesterday in the Baltimore Sun. These indictments handed down a week ago. We're just hearing about them now. The feds allege that the candidate, the person who's currently holding this seat, which she got into this, I guess it was an open seat. Now she's running for the full term. But she was indicted because she was involved in a plot to plant tracking and recording devices. This is the actual term from the indictment of two unnamed individuals. And they were going to get footage of them in bed. And once that footage had been acquired, which is kind of creepy in itself, they were going to use it to extort the individuals. She was indicted on 8 charges. And the co-defendants are Joseph Attar and Kalman Finkelstein. Joseph apparently was her brother. But this is just one Democrat doing one of the darndest things. We have a Maryland Democrat, not Maryland, Massachusetts Democrat, who's a big assistant to Governor Maura Healey. And the Massachusetts Democrat was caught with taking 8 kilos of cocaine delivered to a state office building. Gee, Maura Healey has an assistant who was immediately fired, because I guess once you're caught by the feds and someone's handing you 8 kilos of cocaine, you really don't have any room to say, I've been set up. So Democrats doing the darndest things, saying the darndest things, which we will share with you coming up today. And again, you're welcome to join the conversation at any time. We'll talk about that. A lot of phones are already ringing today. Let's jump in on one phone call just to kick things off. Let's talk to Kevin in Manassas, Virginia. Hello, Kevin. Welcome to the Chris Plante Show.
Good afternoon, Mike. You're doing a great job as always. I'm calling about the commercial truck driver situation. I've had a CDL for over 22 years in the state of Virginia, and one of the things that's not being talked about that I think is more insidious is, over the last 10 years or so, and rightfully so to some extent, they're trying to get truck drivers healthier, which is a good thing. But, they've really been making a big push on sleep apnea and all kinds of tests for our medical cards that we have to get, and blood pressure things and whatnot. And I don't have health insurance any longer because the Affordable Care Act made it unaffordable, and I can't afford the going into the exchange and stuff, and my company doesn't offer it. And a couple of times over the last 10 years or so, I couldn't pass my blood pressure test, and have actually had my license threatened and my livelihood threatened if I didn't get my numbers down within range. Had to go out of pocket and buy blood pressure medicine off the internet, which I'm not arguing the fact that it's needed and people need to be in good health. But a lot of the older American drivers, I'm 53 years old. I guarantee you we are no different than the general population with issues with blood pressure and sleep apnea. But yet, while they were giving these illegals who can't even read street signs licenses, they were at the same time kind of cracking down on the American drivers over medical cards and stuff. And I had a couple times where I had to get a 3-month card instead of now it's a year, but it used to be every 2 years we get certified, and now it's every year because I've experienced high blood pressure. And it's like I've had several times where I won't get a 3-month card, and in that 3 months, if I cannot pass, I would lose my job and couldn't have a CDL anymore. I think that's pretty ridiculous.
Kevin, thank you for your call. That's a great point, and it goes right to my question. Are we taking care of Americans first? President Trump promised he would, and Vice President J.D. Vance is saying that's exactly what he's doing. I'll share some of that with you. It's Mike Opelka on a Friday. Friday Luya to you. It's Halloween. It's the Chris Plante Show. Mike Opelka in for my friend Chris on this Friday, Halloween Friday, Friday Luya to you. I don't have a lot of time here, but I want to grab one more call. So be mindful of the call, Phil in Fredericksburg. Welcome to the Chris Plante Show. You experienced a truck driver who does not speak the language?
Man, I was at my job. There was an 18-wheeler that pulled in front of our warehouse. The driver showed the phone through his passenger window at me and looked at it. He could not ask me, where is this? He was looking for the address that was right next to our warehouse.
Oh, my God.
He couldn't speak a lick of English. But look, how does he get through the weigh scales? How does he know what's on his bill so he can get it signed so he knows what he delivered actually got delivered? He's driving a $200,000 18-wheeler with God knows how much money in material he's delivering. How does he read English written bills to know what he's delivering?
Yeah, it doesn't make sense. It is something that Sean Duffy and Secretary of Homeland Security Kristi Noem are going to work together to end it, because it's not safe for you and me to be on the same roads as people who are driving 60, 70, 80,000 pounds of steel and not able to understand the language. Yeah, it's absolutely stupid. It's maybe one of the dumbest things that we have done as a nation. I know common sense people like you and I would not allow that. But the people in California and New York and other states, they're giving out these licenses. They got to wake up.
Have a great weekend,
we'll get
Mike.
to, thank you, brother. We'll get to the nuclear option. And should the voting age be lowered to 16? Oh, a whole list of crazy stuff. It's Mike Opelka in for Chris Plante on the Chris Plante Show. And welcome to Friday on the Chris Plante Show. Mike Opelka sitting in for my buddy Chris Plante. He'll return on Monday. I'm thrilled to be here, honored to be here, and you're always welcome whenever I'm on the show, to join us at 888-630-9625. I mentioned President Trump. He was back at the White House yesterday. 15-hour flight. 15-hour flight. Just think about that. And yes, Air Force One is tricked out. It's got bedding. It has a place for the president to sleep. It's got a master suite. It's got sleeping quarters. We know that. We also know President Trump doesn't sleep much. He probably, we used to joke about Charlie Sheen when he said he had tiger blood and he was gonna sell tiger blood. I think President Trump actually has tiger blood. He's just so much energy, and beyond the energy of a man his age. All the stuff, all the Bravo Sierra we heard about Joe Biden being as sharp as ever, and we couldn't keep up with him. Remember, Cringe was always saying that. She couldn't keep up with him. Well, that's the actual reality with President Trump. But I did see something on the return trip from the Asian swing, which is just a remarkable trip, I think, on any measure. Democrats are even admitting. But the president showed a little bit of humanity, a little bit of personal vulnerability. When you're 35,000 feet in the air, traveling 650, 700 miles an hour in a giant steel tube, you have to have a lot of faith in the technology and the pilots, etc. But we saw President Trump on the plane talking with the gaggle of reporters, and I know it's radio, but you'll hear it in his voice. The plane was bouncing around a little bit. Air Force One was hitting some turbulence, and Donald Trump kind of showed us a little bit of reality.
Discuss basically, these are rough winds in Asia. I must tell you, this is a rough flight. We could have waited an hour maybe. This is a little tough. These are tough conditions for interviews. You know, they're going to be watching Trump. They're going to say, he didn't look too good. He's got the shakes. I don't have the shakes, but people are going to think I do.
You're pretty solid. So Ukraine.
Yeah, he did look pretty solid, but the video was bouncing around. The overhead bins were not opening or anything, but it looked like he was trying to send a little bit of a message that maybe, just maybe, we could have waited, delayed the departure a little bit, and flown a little bit faster. But all was well. The president got back home in time to host the early Halloween trick-or-treating at the White House. One of the greatest shots I saw was whoever rolled up with the baby carriage that had the McDonald's drive-through window on it. Just a brilliant costume. Caroline Leavitt, press secretary's little one dressed as a pumpkin. It was adorable. It was normal. As Chris Plante likes to say, remember normal. It's in the Chris Plante merchandise store. But also in the gaggle, the president talking about nuclear testing, which I think the left is freaking out over this.
It had to do with others. They seem to all be nuclear testing. We have more nuclear weapons than anybody. We don't do testing. You know, we've halted it many years ago. But with others doing testing, I think it's appropriate that we do also.
Any details around the testing, sir? Like where, when?
It'll be announced. You know, we have test sites.
Yes, we have test sites that we've used in the past. And oddly enough, there was a question answer on Jeopardy last night about France doing nuclear testing back in the 60s. But we have not done any nuclear weapons testing or development. One assumes we haven't done any additional development since 1992. But will we? I don't know. Sometimes President Trump says things to upset the apple cart of the other people involved here. And I truly believe he is a master troller. And then part of this was meant to grab China and Russia by the scruff of the neck, not literally, but just to shake them up a little bit. The Americans are going to be nuclear testing again. Oh, really? Yeah, that's a possibility. And yesterday in the Senate, Crazy Mazie Hirono was all caught up in it too, asking one of the nominees for a critical position within the Department of War about nuclear testing, and would we have environmental impact statements done before we do any testing? You can rest assured they'll probably do something like that. But it just was a very interesting discussion. So the nuclear option was also discussed, as President Trump is saying we need to have the nuclear option evoked in the Senate. Now, the Senate's gone home for the weekend, so nothing is going to happen today. There will not be a vote on it. But it's one of those things that I ask the question, where do you stand on this? I was in a meeting, oh, dear God, I have to go back like to 2009, in the Senate building when Harry Reid discussed wiping out the nuclear option for judges. And there were members of the media who were saying, do you really want to do that? You're not always going to have control. And this was at the time when the Democrats had a 60-vote majority in the Senate, and Harry Reid and others were quite cocky. And I think that has come back to bite them on the hindquarters. So that is the question I would ask you. Where do you stand on the nuclear option? Where I don't think it's a good idea to kill the filibuster. I think the crafting of the Senate was brilliant to make sure that the party in the minority always had the ability to make sure a dialogue was going on. Now, you may not agree with me on that, but that's why we have the phones are always open at 888-630-9625. And that may be why Chip in Alexandria, Virginia is calling. Hello, Chip. On line 5, Chip is joining us to talk about the nuclear option. Hello, Chip.
Hi, Mike. The thing that I'm wondering is if there is a way to have a limited nuclear option where it becomes limited to simply passing a bill with a limited debate, like the Impoundment Act of 1974, where they limit the Senate to 10 hours of debate, and then it's either just an up or down vote on paying critical personnel, but
that's so. I was kind of toying with the same thing here, Chip. I was thinking, well, could you kill the filibuster, use the nuclear option, and then take a vote to reinstate it the next day? And I don't know if that's a reality. There's probably a person who knows the operations of the Senate better than I do. But that is one thing. But I just think it's myopic. It's nearsighted to believe that we're going to be in the majority in the Senate forever and ever and ever. And you're not always going to have that 51 votes or how many ever you have at this point. So I'd be for nuking it like you if it's a temporary thing. But
not so much that I was looking for temporary, but just have it limited. Like Harry Reid first eliminated the filibuster for Supreme Court justices.
Yeah.
And that was the only thing. And I'm thinking, could there be a way to not make it temporary, but limit it to where you can limit debate in the Senate to some amount of time, like 10 hours, if it's a case of paying critical personnel that due to a government shutdown, and just have that part of it be something that they vote on up or down.
I understand what you're saying. I don't know if it's possible. It's one of those nuances that I'm not enough of a scholar on the structure to know it, but I think it's a good idea, a possibility to discover. But since everybody's gone home for the weekend, nothing is going to happen. And the left is going to continue screaming and hollering, as we saw yesterday with Hakeem Jeffries, who is saying that the Republicans are willing to starve people. But thank you, Chip. Appreciate that. Let's check in with Jerry on line 2 in Atlantic Beach, North Carolina. Hello, Jerry. Welcome to the Chris Plante Show.
Thank you. Yeah, I just want to say that that would be playing right into the Democrats' hands if they invoke a nuclear option, because it would take the heat off of them. They'd be able to say, well, we did everything we could there, but the Republicans took us out of play by this nuclear option. And so it would take the heat off of them to on getting the government opened back up again. The other thing was it would now also give them the excuse that later on, whenever they get into power, to invoke the nuclear option, because they would say the Republicans have already done this. And we know that the Democrats would have no hesitation about doing something like that.
Absolutely. And that's exactly where I see this. It's not just about today, but it's about tomorrow and years down the road. And the Democrats have shown they're willing to do anything. That's one of the reasons why J.D. Vance said it. I believe he said it the other night in Mississippi at the Turning Point event when he talked about why we're doing this. And he said the Democrats won't think twice about doing stuff to us. And that's why we have to hold fast on this. And I believe the GOP is starting to win the popular war on this. The Democrats are trying to twist the food stamps aspect of it. But the reality that so many of our brothers and sisters are taking government support in the form of food stamps or SNAP or whatever you want to call it, it's a staggering number. And I really didn't realize it until I was watching CBS News. Christina Fan, that's her name. Christina Fan was reporting on 1 in 8 Americans relies on supplemental nutrition assistance program. Cut 1 if you have it, Jeffrey.
1 in 8 Americans rely on SNAP benefits, and tonight there is mounting worry for them. They might not be able to afford food with money running out 1 week from today.
How did we get to the point where 15% of America relies on food stamps? How did we get to that point? And
I wouldn't couch it like that. I would say 15% depend upon the government to feed them.
Well, Jerry, that's a great point. And I think all of us know the axiom that's going to follow. If you rely on the government to feed you, you also can expect the government to starve you when they want you to do something for them. So that's kind of where that goes. Thank you, Jerry. Excellent point. My question is, and I don't even think we've explored this fully, will the attention being focused on the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, SNAP, food stamps, whatever you want to call it, bring into the spotlight the need to look at it and say, okay, is this being abused? I watched this New Yorker post on his social media account yesterday that the food stamps aren't really bringing food to people.
I'm going to keep it a buck with y'all. Like, the real reason why a lot of people are upset about this whole food stamps, SNAP benefit thing, bro, is because they're selling their food stamps, bro. They're selling them. I'm telling you, they are selling their food stamps, bro. You know how many people in New York and other states right now are going to the corner store, the deli, and they're selling their food stamps, bro? They're selling, that's why they're getting like $4,000, $3,000 in food stamps, and they're selling it for cash. They'll get $4,000 in food stamps, and they'll just take like $1,000 in cash.
Now, this is not a unique post. There are several people who have posted about the scams associated with this massive amount of your money, providing what was supposed to be supplemental assistance for people who truly needed the government to help them to make sure they could eat. And yet there are a whole bunch of people who are taking advantage of that system. And there are gigantic numbers as it relates to the amount of people who are on food assistance programs who were just granted entry into this country. Some of them are refugees. The numbers of people who have come here and have automatically become dependent on the government is a staggering number. We'll get into that. We'll talk about that. We'll talk additionally more about the SNAP program, because the left is trying to make this about starving children. There aren't going to be any starving children. I'm sure there are people that are hungry. But this is also about twisting what has been a normal procedure in the past to vote for a clean continuing resolution. I still maintain the left is losing it on this. You're starting to see the airline pilots are stepping up. We had the largest government employees union, Chris mentioned it yesterday, who stood up and said, no, you got to pass this and end this. And once some unions are stepping up, you might get the attention of Democrats. And then there's the story that all of this will come to an end after next Tuesday's elections. We'll get into that just around the corner. You can join us. 888-630-9625. 888-630-9625. Mike Opelka in for Chris Plante on The Chris Plante Show. It is The Chris Plante Show on this Friday, Halloween. Friday Luya to you. Mike Opelka sitting in for my buddy Chris Plante. He will return on Monday and regale you with all the stories of the news of the weekend. When we went away, I was talking about the shutdown and the momentum on the shutdown, which I truly believe has gone towards the Republicans. And as long as Republicans keep speaking the truth, saying all we want is 7 weeks to negotiate the deal based on where we are today, don't put anything else on it, and keep reminding people that Schumer voted for this all these times before, I think they win. But we need to go to the polls on this.
Polls. I need some numbers. Polls. Not just any numbers. Polls. You know I need some numbers. Polls.
Yes, I need some polls. So we looked over at Harry Enton, not a skin condition. He's the pollster over at CNN, Harry Enton, and he was talking about the poll numbers as it relates to the GOP and the shutdown and what the people think.
Yeah, you might think, given that the Republicans are in charge of both the House and the Senate, that a government shutdown might actually hurt the Republican brand. But in fact, it hasn't. If anything, it's been helped a little bit. Take a look here, the shift in net popularity versus pre-shutdown. When we're looking at the Republican Party overall, that brand actually up 2 points. That's within the margin of error, but clearly it hasn't dropped. Come over to this side of the screen. Look at the net approval ratings for Republicans in Congress. It's actually up 5 points since pre-shutdown. So what we're seeing here is the Republican brand in Congress has actually improved somewhat compared to where we were pre-shutdown, despite the fact that Republicans control. And that's the math that John Thune and Mike Johnson are looking at is,
yeah,
well, hey, why should we give, and electorally speaking, when our brand has actually improved a little bit?
Yes, the brand is improving. And I think you follow up on that. When you've got the brand doing exactly that, you stay with it. When something is working, you don't change it. So thank you, Harry Enton. Not a skin condition. It's one of those things I don't think you need to invoke the nuclear option. Let's grab one more quick call on this. D on line 3 in Southeast Alabama. Hello, D.
Hey, D. Hey, Mike. I really enjoy your show and enjoy listening to you when you're covering down for people. Hey, I'm a government employee on furlough, so I have a perspective on this. And I was initially had the same.
D, you got to hang on. I'm up against the clock. Sorry I talked so long.
Okay, got you. Will do, Mike. All right.
Hang on. We'll talk to you after the break. It's Opelka in for Plant on the Chris Plant Show.